So today we are looking at a Triton trumpet that was a modification I did many years ago. It was a modification, and what I mean by that is originally this was a Selmer Signet, which it says right here, and I used the valve block and the bell to be able to build this trumpet. Everything else I made myself, and I was trying to find a year on it. I didn't see a year stamped on it, and some years have no stamp because it was before I owned a set of hand stamps. So I want to show you the repair I did on this horn. I'm going to put it back together right now and show you the repair. And then this customer had asked me to engrave the trumpet with my name Harrelson because it's not even on the horn, because I had no way of engraving back then. I didn't know how to hand engrave yet, and I didn't have any other equipment like that. So all the parts on this trumpet were made by hand, without a lathe, without a milling machine, just with basic hand tools. And over the years I did a lot of different things, and I learned how to make pretty much everything on lathes and milling machines and manual tools. And then years later I moved to CNC, and of course now we use metal 3D printing as well. Okay, so I'm going to put it all together, show you the repair, and then we'll go engrave it. And after that we'll play test it. And we'll even look up the shop card. I don't know if there is one because this might be before that. I'm guessing this was made in 2002, maybe 2003. Even though I started building trumpets in 1996, I didn't do that all the time. I was a performer, so I wasn't spending all my time building trumpets back then. This is what it looks like. Here's the repair. It was right here. So this joint came loose, which isn't that surprising because there's so much weight on this bell. And if you're using a bell stand, that's the easiest way to break a brace like this, because there's very little holding that on there. It's not like it's too little, but not enough to endure a lot of stress. So back when I was building this horn, the Triton series, I was filling in the valve set with these braces to solidify and prevent any motion. So essentially the valve casing moved a lot less because of that. And you can see I definitely made a very different tuning slide. Let's pull that out. See, what's it hitting? Oh, it actually hits the third slide. I see. All right, so there it is. So the way I have this designed, the water keys just barely interfere with each other down there. So I had to pull the third slide out first to get this out. So that's the tuning slide. And again, the Triton series, the first version of it, it did have this kind of design in the tuning slide. And I was trying to add mass here. I did that just for decoration, and in this bell crook as well. And this trumpet was fairly well known, this series, on Trumpet Herald and Trumpet Master or something, whatever those online groups were. But it was very difficult to build this horn, and the reason I put all this bracing on here was because I was looking for the maximum efficiency. So the lead pipe did not lose any energy. That's a 3/4 inch brass lead pipe. These are 3/4 inch all the way around, and it really didn't lose any energy, maybe a tiny bit in here, until it got to here. And essentially there was very little energy loss in this. It's really weird to play a Triton because the sound just comes right out the bell, almost like somebody's pulling it out. It's the strangest feeling. And I only have one Triton of my own, which is hanging on the wall in the shop, so we can see that when we go over there. But it was very difficult to make this because I had to hand cut all of these fin braces to be exactly the same shape as the bell. And then to solder them on, believe it or not, I had to hold it on with my fingers and use the torch and the solder all at the same time. And I would reinforce my gloves multiple times to be able to hold this and solder. And it would take me sometimes over an hour just to solder these 3 braces. I know sometimes it took 2 or 3 hours, because if I overheated one section, then the other brace would fall off. And I spent a long time learning how to do that. And that's one of the reasons the Triton was such a rare instrument. I think I only made maybe 5 or 6 of them total, and each one was a little different. Some were very different. They were very cool horns. Now with the 3D printer, which is right here, so we're right next to the 3D printer. This is the metal printer that does stainless steel. So with this machine, we can actually make this bell on this machine. You know, it can only do 10 inches high, so about to there, but we can literally machine, because it's a CNC milling machine, and it's a laser sintering machine, which means it's metal 3D printer. But essentially we could build this straight up, and we can make it other shapes, we could change the bracing, but it would just build the whole thing up, and then we just attach it to the next section. So now we can do it much easier than we did back, you know, 20 some years ago. So yeah, let's go find the original photos of this if we can. I will look them up on my computer, and we will engrave the lead pipe with Harrelson, because that's what he requested, and then we'll go in the showroom and play it. Okay, so here's my website, and if you go on my website and you click on, oh, where is it? If you click on instruments, way up here, and then you go down to trumpet gallery, you're going to see the trumpet gallery that I was referring to, and a lot of the gallery has not been updated. You can see probably since like 2020, so we'll get new stuff up there. But if we go all the way down, you can see there's a section that's 2015 to 17, 13 to 14, 9 to 12. I'll click on one of these. Here's 2009 to 2012. So you can see some of the stuff I was doing. There's one of the first demo bravuras. So this was a 4-valve bravura with modular lead pipes and not modular bells. And there's the Medusa trumpet, which has been played by many people in performances over the years. And a ribbons trumpet, that was a cool one. Let's check this out. So we've got one that has ribbons as braces. So I just literally wrapped, that's from 2009. I wrapped braces right around as actual brass, so that's ribbons. Here's Cindy Bradley's Art Nouveau. So if you've heard any of her albums, quite a few of them were filmed or were recorded on this horn, and that was one of the first Nouveau trumpets. It's got her name right on it. And then here's a Summit Art for Dave Richards. So those are just some of the featured ones. This isn't all the horns from those years. We just featured a few. So let me go back, and we're going to go to the earliest, 93 to 2000. And here you can see some of my earliest trumpets, and there's a couple of them. On the top, that is my first trumpet, which is a B flat, and it's hanging on the wall in the showroom. And on the bottom was my first C trumpet. I believe it was the first one. And that one never got a serial number from what I remember. And you can see I was a woodworker at the time, so I used to do real fine woodworking like this. And this was one of my first shops in Northfield. And you can see I was doing woodworking and trumpets in that shop. So that's not the year we're looking for either. That's too early. So let's go back 2001 to 2008. Now we might be able to find this horn. Let's look at a couple. Okay, this is one of the mass trumpets. It had a double bell design. Of course, all of these were experimental. I was experimenting with the brass acoustics and understanding what would work best for different situations. So there's a lot of really unusual things on this page. There's one of my early flugelhorns, and here's another flugel. We'll keep going down. This was, I think, one of my personal horns that I performed on for a couple of years. There's another flugel. That one's kind of cool. So these are all experimental. Now I'm wondering if we can find the Triton series on this page. So let me go through. Oh, here's the ebony. That was a cool horn. That was made from real ebony. So that was made, the lead pipe was made out of metal and wood. And I've got bird's eye maple and ebony throughout the horn. And the owner of this horn still has it. He plays it regularly, and he's a pro in Washington, D.C. His name is Curtis. You may know him. Another flugel. Here's another ebony. Oh, you know what? I don't remember which one Curtis owns, because there's two ebonies here. But this one is ebony amboina, so the one on the bottom here, that's amboina, and this is bird's eye maple. So you can see I had done a couple different ones. And I think those were, well, what is this range, date range? This is 2001 to 2008. I think those were probably 2004, maybe 2005. Well, they were before this horn, because I built the first higher ground trumpet for that fundraiser that was for Hurricane Katrina, and it was hosted by Jazz at Lincoln Center, and I donated this to Jazz at Lincoln Center back in 2005. Let's go back to that one. Oh, there's only 2 photos of it right here, but there are more photos I can show you later. So you see a lot of different things. We need to go back far enough to find a Triton. Oh wait, this one's worth seeing. This is the Nouveau, and this one was specifically made for a client who was a pilot. So I made those bottom caps and top caps look like propellers. That was pretty cool. And here's one that I did engraving all the way down the bell. Also a fun horn. That was one of the first HT models. All right, let's keep going here. This was one of my personal trumpets that I played regularly. And I remember that being a great lead horn, but it worked for everything. Okay, we'll go down a little further here. So a lot of you probably didn't know this gallery existed, but it's been our website since we've started the website. This is one of the early 907 renderings. So I believe we were the first company to ever model and render the entire trumpet in CAD software. And I think that was around 2003 or 4. This one's a rendering also. It's not an actual trumpet. So I designed the entire thing in CAD back when CAD was not so easy, and rendered the whole thing, and then I built it. And you can see that was the rendering. Here's the actual trumpet. So that's rendering, trumpet, and they're the same. All right, we're going to continue on. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, here's an interesting piccolo trumpet that I built. Again, one of my personal piccolos that I played for a while. There's a Triton. Okay, so this is one of the Triton series. And there's the top view. This is not the Triton that we're looking at today, but you can see each one of the Triton trumpets was a little different. And actually, I think we have some brochures that feature the original Triton trumpets, so we'll try to find one of those. Check out this cornet. Again, I was going for efficiency, and a lot of times I was just having fun as well, as you can imagine. Like this one, clearly I'm just trying to make something new and interesting. And I think this one is probably around 2002. It's fairly early. My first trumpet was 96. The reason I say 2002 is because the ones from 96 through like 2001, most of them were never photographed. So I don't know that photos exist. This is one of my early C trumpets. This one may have been, this one probably was before 2000. All right, let's go down. Triton trumpets. This is the first Triton C trumpet, and it's marked serial number 2, even though there were a lot of trumpets before that. Okay, let's look at this photo. All right, the very top one is similar to the one we're looking at. The next one down is not. So there are 1, 2, 3 Triton models on this photo. None of them are the horn that we're talking about, though. You can see there's variations in them. So we have not found it. This is a good photo. All right, and I think that's in one of our first brochures. That's another good photo. So you can see I did a lot of work with that Triton bracing, but eventually I had to abandon it because it was too hard to make, and it was also, it projected, I mean, sadly, too much. Like most players that played them said they couldn't get used to the sound traveling so far, but the ones that did really well with it. So that's one of the early, let's look at this photo. This is our office years ago, and you can see I'm working on the computer taking an order or something, and I'm building horns in the background. This was actually in our home in Waconia, and that's the computer I designed a lot of this stuff on. I mean, all of that seems like ancient today. But yeah, that was my shop, and I would do the soldering outside on the picnic bench. But that was my shop years ago when I first started doing a lot of the research out of school. You know, this is after I had graduated, because I did a lot while I was in school. And I don't have any photos, at least that I know of doing that work inside my dorm room, but I did do some of that in my dorm room in college. So yeah, we're not going to find any more photos, I don't think, of the Triton series. This one's interesting. This is when I was making the hand grip for the ebony bird's eye maple trumpet. You can see there's all the pieces, and I hand cut all those. I didn't have any machines. Well, I had a manual lathe, so I cut that with a manual lathe. And there it is, mocked up. I don't think that's actually put together yet. And there it is, put together. So yeah, I don't have any more photos, I don't think. So if you have questions on that, or ideas, or if you find one of the older horns that we've built over the years, or that I've built, and you want to have it marked, you know, with my name on it, I'm happy to do that. I don't charge a lot to engrave those. If they need repairs, that would obviously be more difficult and cost some money. And to give you an example on that Triton trumpet, I did do that bell repair. That's about $100 repair, and that's simply because it's very difficult to heat up a horn that has that many interconnecting junctions all in one spot. But that gives you an idea of what I was doing, you know, 20, 25 years ago, even 30 years ago. And remember, in January, I think it's like January 6th or something, somewhere in that range, that will be our 30th anniversary. So I'll look and see the exact date that I built the first horn, but it was built in 1996. So yeah, we're coming up on 30 years, and the research side of things, we're already at 30 years, because that started in what, 1992. So what is 2025? Yeah, so we're, you know, a few years ahead on the research. All right, I did find one of the original brochures. That's what it looked like. And you can see some Triton trumpets on there. These were all finished in brushed gold. The top one, I think, was, I don't remember the name of it. Yeah, I can't remember the names of any of these, but yeah, 2 Tritons and then another model. And it's been so long, I don't remember all the names. Okay, here, Triton 2 965. That was the one with the cool elliptical cutouts. And then the 904, 905 series. We had the Triton 964, so 964, 965. And I have a notebook that describes exactly what all these numbers mean. And I know the first number was related to the efficiency of the lead pipe. And then the second number was a bracing type. And then the third number was like a sub version of that bracing type. There's another one. This is the Lightning Triton, which was, there was only one of those. And this was an 890, so a less efficient lead pipe. And then there you can see a cornet, and there's our old phone number and address, and even our old website, which was a long time ago. So yeah, you know, I have some of these brochures. So if anybody's watching this video and you want one of these brochures, I'll give you one for free if you just pay for shipping, because they're cool. And I have other brochures from other years, so if you want, you know, a few different things, a little swag, I've got a box of them. I'd love for them to go out instead of just sit here in the shop. It's a cool piece of history from like 20 years ago. Okay, I asked Jen to give me the shop cards to try to find the shop card for that horn. And this is our pile of shop cards. And not every trumpet is in here. Not every trumpet got a shop card, especially a lot of the early modifications. And then there are others that just didn't get them for various reasons. Sometimes we just didn't make one by accident. So they're not all here, but you can see that's quite a few. So we're going to get rid of 2023. This is 2013 to 2022, so that's 10 years of building trumpets. That's what that looks like. It's a lot. And now let's go on to 2006 to 2012. Apparently, we started keeping track in 2006. So let's see what we have. Here's an actual shop card. So this is what they look like. I'll show you one. So this one, this trumpet was built for somebody named Pasclar, and it was August 8th, 2007, and that is the serial number. That was a mass trumpet. If you've seen one of those, they're kind of cool. And oh no, here's the serial number. There's the shop card number. So 7/5/2007 was the shop, or the serial number. That's the manufacturer date also. This one was in brushed gold, lead pipe 6, bell 6. Valve casing was German. That was possibly Bauerfeind then, or maybe something else. I don't know. Here's another one. Oh, this is the shop card for the Duran Duran trumpet for when I played with Duran Duran. I built a trumpet for the tour, and yeah, so that's that. It was from October 25th of 2007. So let's see if we can find anything close to this horn. I already know it's not going to be in here because I know that trumpet is before that date. But you can see Jen has logged all the names, or a lot of the names, of this section. And there's the next section, so on and so forth. So if somebody's bought a horn, we have record of it, and it's going to be in here. You know, for instance, we've got James Gertz, Brian Hill, Tannen Williams, Warren Lopica, Ralph Rogers. I mean, these are all people that bought trumpets back in 2012. So let's go back to 2006 and see what we can find. We'll at least find some interesting stuff. Here's a modification from May 15th, 2006, and there are all my notes. Third finger ring fixed, replaced valve stems, and recut finger buttons to fit recessed top caps. Double valve casing brace system, okay, and designed for use as a lead trumpet, and this was for Leo Van Mook, who I believe still has this trumpet. It was an LPR modification to a Bess in London. So some of these were new trumpets and some of them were modifications, and like I said, we didn't start keeping track until about this time. So let's go to the very first one that we have a shop card for. It's for James Newcomb, demo C trumpet, interchangeable lead pipes, and we used a number 1 bell. Yeah, so this is the earliest, and that's before they started looking like shop cards. Here you can see that's what the shop cards look like before the version you saw, and there is no record of this one. But let's go through a couple others. This one was an estimated build date of 2004 or 5, so we reissued the shop card for somebody, and it was a Muse. This one was a Spectrum. That was a very cool model. This one was a modification, a 907, a 908. The ebony prototype, if you haven't seen the ebony, it was made out of maple and ebony. And I know that Curtis Pope has that trumpet. He's had it for many years. That was built in August 20th of 2006. There's a Muse C trumpet. You don't see those very often. That was serial number 8. So yeah, we're not going to find any Tritons in here. And now we can play this Triton trumpet. Like I said, Jen and I looked through the shop cards. We could not find the shop card for this particular trumpet. So it has no serial number, nothing else. And that is why our customer asked to have Harrelson engraved on it. There are many trumpets out there that are experimental. I'm guessing a couple hundred that do not have my name on them, and they are trumpets I built. Now, if you want to verify that I built a trumpet that you found or you bought or that you know of, you can send me photos and I will try to confirm whether that's true or not. There is a photo album on my website, excuse me, and it does show many of the early prototypes that were unmarked. So when we're done play testing this, we'll go onto my computer and film a little bit of the website so you can see those galleries. And I have hard drives filled with photos that are not on my website. So I can confirm whether or not I built something, even if I don't remember doing it or not. I can look for the photos. We're going to start with Spectrum in Blue. So I'm just going to play this. I haven't played it yet. Wow, that is like a wall of sound, and I'm barely putting any effort in. There's a reason that this technology, standing wave efficiency technology, took off so quickly in the late 90s, early 2000s, as I was doing this research. And when I say it took off quickly, It took off first in Minneapolis, St. Paul, in the Twin Cities area, because that's where I lived and that's where I played. And I was a performing musician, and I went to school in that area. So a lot of my friends and colleagues and people I met on gigs would buy my trumpets right off the gig. Like, I'd be at the gig and people would hear the trumpet and they'd be like, hey, I need to know more about that trumpet. How can you do these things? Like a lot of acrobatic things, because I was a much better player back then. But a lot of it was the horn helping me do these things. And again and again, people would ask me right on a gig, they'd say, hey, would you sell that trumpet? And I would sell my trumpets to people on gigs all the time. And if you knew me back then, in the early 2000s in the Twin Cities, maybe you own one or two of my horns that you bought from me at a gig. It'd be great to hear from you and hear that story. But I know a lot of people did. So let me get this tuning slide out where I want it and play it a little more. So what I was saying is, the reason that this technology took off so quickly is because it works and it's so easy to play. This is easier to play than any of my trumpets on the wall right now. The problem is it's so heavy and it's so bulky, you know, that's the problem. And this one wasn't designed to have the same kind of resonance as a standard trumpet. With this bell bracing, it resonates differently. It's not going to resonate as brilliant and as in the same way that you normally expect. It's much more stable. It's a wall of sound. It's an orchestral horn. And remember, this was originally a Selmer Signet, and that is a Selmer Signet bell. So I didn't change that. The valve casings are the same. Those parts are exactly the same as the original. Let me play some actual music. I'll do the Charlie 1 because I was working on that a couple months ago, so maybe I can remember some of it. That's way easier, although that third slide needs some grease. Okay, I need to grease that. Man. And that's with Spectratone Blue. That's a deep mouthpiece, so it's not like the easiest mouthpiece to play. I was going to put Spectratone Red in there, but it's disassembled. Here, let me put that together real quick. So the efficiency is real. I mean, honestly, I wish that the majority of people who play my horns could get over two things. First, if you play somebody's trumpet that I built for them, it was custom built for them. It wasn't custom built for you. That means their preferences are what you're going to be playing, and they may not fit you. And that's the biggest challenge we have, is that we're so custom because we're serving each individual client that a lot of times people will say, well, it was a nice looking horn and it seemed okay, but I just wouldn't play it. And a lot of times that's because either the venturi was set up or the lead pipe was set up specific to a person and their preferences, and they're very different than you. Or maybe we set up the resonance and the tone color to be different than what you're expecting. But with that said, almost always when a lead player plays one of our horns and they use a tight airstream and they like a certain type of brilliance and they hand it to their friend who has similar preferences, that person usually calls us and orders a horn. And that's why you don't see us spending millions of dollars advertising, is because the person who gave it to another person who's similar in preferences, they sold the horn for us because they let them try it, and that's it, it's done. We don't have to get on the phone and say, well, do you want to buy one? No, they just call us and order one. That's how it's always been. And that's the first biggest problem, is that you try somebody's horn or you hear it and it's not what you're expecting, what you want, and you think, oh, all Harrelsons are like that, just like people do with Monette. And it's not true with Monette either. I'll say this: Dave Monette is building horns that do different things, and you'll hear one and say I like it or I don't, and you hear another one and maybe it's different and you think you like it or you don't, but you hear so few that you judge them based on a couple experiences instead of getting to know the whole line. And that's what you need to do with us, because we specialize in giving you exactly what you ask for, both in terms of the tonality and the projection, but also in terms of how it feels to you as a player. So we do all of that, and we work with you individually. The second thing that most people have a problem with is projection. Most people confuse projection with poor response. That's the second biggest complaint that I've ever heard about our horns, is that when we build a high efficiency trumpet that projects more energy into the sound and more sound to your audience, or in other words, away from you, the less you hear behind the horn. And most people don't want to spend the time to listen to what's happening. They would rather have a less efficient and less easy to play, less projecting horn, because they want to selfishly just listen the way they always have to an inefficient horn. If you've been playing on an inefficient horn for years and you play one of these, you'll have one or two different outcomes. Either you'll right away recognize it's bouncing off of wherever it is, the far wall, or it's going out, or you won't, and then you'll fight it. And once you know that the horn is projecting that much more, and I'm talking a lot more, especially with this one, but like our whole Summit line and the Muse line, they're projecting so much more than you're used to. You have to listen a little bit differently. You have to listen in a different place. And vocalists have this problem, trumpet players have this problem, based on the size of the room and the acoustics of the room. If you're a vocalist and you sing in a very dead room, you're gonna have a very hard time singing with good technique, and the same thing happens to trumpet players. So if you're playing a high efficiency horn in a dead room, that's worse than a low efficiency horn in a dead room, because the low efficiency horn, you'll actually get some resonance and sound right here around your ears, whereas the high efficiency one just goes straight out to whatever's absorbing the sound. Those can be problems, and we recognize that, and that's why we've designed the third, fourth, and fifth generation Summits to give you more feedback. But because they give you more feedback, they'll never be as efficient as this. If you want something this high efficiency, you need to be able to listen that other way, and that would be a special custom order to do that. But this, I've got my Spectratron right in here. This thing is so efficient, it's so easy. Yeah, it's like, it requires almost no effort to deafen myself in this room. That is truly easy, and it is projecting more than any of my other horns. This would be a killer lead horn or a great classical horn, depending on which mouthpiece you put into it. It is not for sale. This belongs to one of my customers. He bought it secondhand. I have no idea where he got it. I bet you he got a great deal though, because it's completely plated in 24 karat gold, and even though it looks a little rough, it can actually just be lightly polished and it'll probably go right back to the original finish. And it's crazy. I don't know how much I sold this for back in like 2002 or 2003, but I do know the gold plating was like $300. That's how cheap gold plating was back then. Today, to plate this would probably be closer to $6,000 because of the way gold plating is charged by, it follows the price of an ounce of gold. And I know this horn would be 1.5 ounces would be the charge rate. So like $6 grand, but man, it's so easy to play. When I started playing on this mouthpiece, I was shooting for a C and I just kept hitting the D. Oh, I did it again. I don't mean to. That's because the amount of energy I'm used to putting in on a summit would be that amount. Now I would get a C, and on this horn I'm getting a D. Now the one thing this trumpet is missing is the VGR system. If I could adjust the venturi and the impedance ratios here, then I would have a perfect match. If you notice, even though it's a very high efficiency horn, some of my upper register notes pop out easier than others, and my F is not sounding very well. I have to work harder on that note. So the G also isn't as easy. The C, D, E are easier. Those are way easier than the F and the G. That could be corrected if we had the technology like the VGR system. And we don't, because this is a 23, 24-year-old horn. Yeah, thanks for joining me on this video.